the world was already on fire. In 1939, World War II erupted into the deadliest conflict in human history. Nations collapsed, alliances formed, and within just a few years, millions were already gone. At first, it seemed unstoppable. Nazi Germany surged across Europe with terrifying speed, overrunning Poland, crushing France, and pushing its influence deeper into the continent. For a moment, it looked like nothing could stand in its way. But history is fragile, because for Germany to win this war, truly win it, everything hinges on just a few critical moments. Moments where the outcome could have gone differently. Moments where a single shift changes everything. In 1940, the skies above Britain became a battlefield. This was the Battle of Britain, a relentless aerial assault designed to break the island nation. Night after night, bombs rained down, cities burned, civilians ran for cover as sirens screamed through the dark. Germany's goal was simple: destroy Britain's defenses and invade. But Britain held on, barely. Now imagine if it didn't. If the Royal Air Force had collapsed, if German forces had crossed the English Channel, Britain would fall, and with it, Europe would lose its last major line of resistance. No safe base for counterattacks, no staging ground for liberation. Just one continent, under one regime. Then came the East. In 1941, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, one of the largest invasions in history. Millions of soldiers, thousands of tanks, a lightning strike aimed at the heart of the Soviet Union. At first, it worked. Entire armies were encircled, cities fell, the German advance seemed unstoppable. But then, winter came, supply lines stretched thin, resistance hardened, the momentum slowed, and eventually it broke. But what if it didn't? What if Moscow fell? What if Soviet resistance collapsed under the pressure? Germany would control vast lands, endless resources, and an army no longer divided between two fronts. The war would tilt decisively. And then, across the ocean, the United States, an industrial giant, a sleeping power. When war broke out in Europe, America stayed out, watching from a distance, reluctant to be pulled into another global conflict. It wasn't until later that everything changed. But imagine if it never did. No massive shipments of weapons and supplies. No D-Day invasion. No overwhelming industrial force tipping the balance. Without American intervention, the Allies lose their strongest advantage. And Germany, it gains time. Time to consolidate power. Time to strengthen its grip. Time to win. If those moments had shifted even slightly, Europe, as we know it, would cease to exist. Not slowly, but all at once. With Britain defeated and the Soviet Union collapsed, there is no one left to resist. One by one, nations disappear, not just conquered, but absorbed. Under the rule of Adolf Hitler, Europe is no longer a collection of countries. It becomes a single dominating force, a regime built not just on power, but on ideology. Borders are erased. France, no longer France. Poland, no longer Poland. Entire identities wiped from the map. In their place, a vast expansion of German-controlled territory stretches from Western Europe deep into the East. This isn't occupation, it's transformation. A complete restructuring of society designed to reshape the future itself. In this world, control is absolute. Dissent isn't debated, it's silenced. Surveillance is constant. Loyalty is enforced. And fear becomes a way of life. Every aspect of daily existence, education, media, even thought is carefully monitored and controlled. Because in this regime, power isn't just maintained by force. It's maintained by belief. But the most profound change isn't what people see, it's what they are allowed to remember. Books rewritten, histories altered, languages suppressed. Generations grow up in a world where truth is no longer objective, is dictated. What was once diverse becomes uniform. What was once free becomes controlled. With no major opposition left, this new empire doesn't just survive. Resources from the east, industry from the west. A unified system built for long-term dominance. And without external threats, it begins to look permanent. But even empires this powerful face a question. What happens when there's no one left to fight, but still everything to lose? With Europe silenced and an empire stretching across continent, only one true rival remains across the Atlantic, the United States. In our timeline, the world experienced a split between democracy and communism after the war. However, in this alternate reality, that divide never occurs. There is no Cold War as we know it, no Soviet Union rising to challenge the West. Instead, there are only two giants, two ideologies, two futures. On one side, a global empire built on control. On the other, a nation built on freedom. And between them, an ocean that feels smaller every day. At first, there is no direct conflict, no invasion, no open war, because both sides understand the cost. Instead, the battle shifts into the shadows. Propaganda, influence, every move calculated, every action watched. A new kind of war begins, not with explosions, but with information. Germany, now unchallenged in Europe, focuses on one thing: becoming unstoppable. Industrial output surges, weapons evolve, technology advances at an alarming pace. Meanwhile, the United States prepares quietly, relentlessly. Factories expand, research accelerates, military strategy shifts from defense to anticipation, because both sides know this peace is temporary. In our history, the Manhattan Project changed everything. It introduced a weapon so powerful it could end wars instantly. But in this alternative reality, who gets there first? A Nazi-controlled Europe with vast resources and no Eastern Front, or the United States racing against time? Because the first to unlock that power doesn't just win a war, they define the future. Alliances form in secret. Nations choose sides or are forced to. Smaller countries become battlegrounds for influence. Conflicts spark, then vanish before they can escalate. The world lives in a constant state of near war, always watching, always waiting, and then it becomes unavoidable. How long can two superpowers exist without colliding? Because when they do, it won't be like the wars before. It won't be fought for territory, but for the fate of the entire world. As the world braces for a clash between two superpowers, another force rises in the east, relentless, expanding, unstoppable in its own right. Japan. While Germany dominates Europe and stretches deep into Africa, Japan tightens its grip across Asia and the Pacific, from China to Southeast Asia to vast island chains across the ocean. Its influence spreads rapidly. Resources are secured, trade routes controlled, an empire built not just on conquest, but on survival. At first, Germany and Japan stand on the same side of history, bound by shared enemies, connected by ambition. But now, there are no enemies left to unite them, only power. And power doesn't like to be shared. The map of the world is no longer recognizable. Europe, Africa, and parts of the Middle East under German control. Asia and the Pacific dominated by Japan. The Americas holding their ground, watching closely. Three powers, each one expanding, each one preparing. And between them, tension begins to grow. Territories overlap. Influence collides. What begins as small disagreements turns into silent competition. Who controls the resources? Who dominates global trade? Who leads the future? Because in a world like this, there is no room for equals. Open war would be catastrophic. So instead, the fight moves elsewhere. Smaller nations become battlegrounds. Governments are influenced or overthrown. Conflicts ignite, fueled from the outside. Weapons are tested, strategies refined, all without triggering full-scale war. A global chessboard where every move has consequences. Three superpowers, each armed, each watching, each waiting for the other to make a mistake. The balance holds, but barely, because history has shown tension like this doesn't last forever. It's no longer a question of if conflict will happen, and when it does, it won't be contained, it won't be limited, it will be global, because in a world ruled by empires, peace is only an illusion. In a world balanced on the edge of conflict, power is no longer measured in armies or territory, but in a single, terrifying breakthrough. In our timeline, the Manhattan Project unlocked a force unlike anything humanity had ever seen. A weapon capable of destroying entire cities. In seconds, it didn't just end a war, it redefined what war meant. But in this world, the race is no longer one-sided. A Nazi-dominated Europe, unified, industrialized, and no longer fighting on multiple fronts, channels its full strength into scientific advancement. Every resource, every mind, every experiment focused on one goal: break the limits of physics before their enemies do. Laboratories expand in secrecy. Physicists, engineers, and researchers are pushed beyond their limits. Progress accelerates, not out of curiosity, but out of fear, because in this race, second place doesn't exist. Across the Atlantic, the United States understands exactly what's at stake. This isn't just another weapon, it's the weapon. Funding surges, research intensifies, time becomes the enemy, because if Germany reaches it first, there may not be a second chance, and now everything splits into two terrifying possibilities. One, Germany gets there first. If Nazi Germany unlocks nuclear power first, the balance collapses instantly. No prolonged war, no equal standoff, just overwhelming dominance. Entire cities gone in moments, nations forced into submission, resistance erased before it begins. The world doesn't fight back, it surrenders. 2. America wins the race. But if the United States gets there first, the result isn't peace, it's tension. A standoff between two unstoppable forces, one armed, one racing to catch up. And the moment both sides hold that power, the world enters its most dangerous phase. Because once nuclear weapons exist on both sides, war becomes unthinkable, and yet more likely than ever. Every decision carries the risk of annihilation. Every mistake could be the last. In a world like this, victory isn't about winning, it's about surviving. But beyond the weapons, beyond the politics, there's something even more disturbing. It's easy to think about this world in maps, in borders, in armies, in power, but that's not where its true impact is felt. It's felt in everyday life. Imagine waking up in a city that looks familiar. The streets are clean, the trains run on time, people go to work. On the surface, everything seems normal, but look closer. Flags hang from every building, symbols are everywhere, uniforms blend into daily life, and beneath that order is control. You are never truly alone. Neighbors watch neighbors, conversations are careful, even silence can be suspicious, because stepping out of line isn't just risky, it's dangerous. And over time, fear stops feeling like fear, it starts feeling normal. Cultures begin to fade, languages disappear, traditions are erased, entire identities rewritten or removed. What made people different? is slowly replaced by what makes them obedient: a single narrative, a single identity, a single way to exist. And the most powerful control isn't physical, it's psychological. When people grow up in a system like this, they don't just follow it, they believe it. Not because they are forced to, but because they've never known anything else. There are no safe places left, no opposing voices strong enough to challenge the system, no outside world offering a different perspective. Just one reality, endless, unquestioned. Germany didn't win World War II. History took a different path. But imagining this world shows us something important: how fragile that path really was. Because the outcome of that war didn't just decide who ruled, it decided what kind of world we would live in. And maybe the most chilling part of all is how close it might have been. If you want more stories that reveal the hidden turning points of history, subscribe, because the past is never as distant as it seems.